How can this man be a father? How can he look after a young child if he's done this?
5 minutes before the end, he turned to me and said, "Daddy, I hate you."
I don't know them now. It's 7 years. I don't know them. I don't know what their ambitions, their goals, their dreams are.
Define parental alienation for us.
So parental alienation is a set of behaviours that one parent might employ to alienate a child against the other parent.
Alienation in its pure form is the unjustified rejection by a child of a parent who they once loved deeply.
Parental alienation takes place where you have a situation of high conflict and the relationship is such that one parent really undermines the role that the other parent has in the children's lives.
5% of children involved in divorce or separation will experience some level of alienation. That equates to 5,000 children annually, but it's a conservative estimate. Leading family experts claim it's closer to 20,000. In all the stories you're about to see, we couldn't approach the other parent for reasons of anonymity. Alison is the mother of 2 boys. Her marriage broke down before her youngest child's 2nd birthday. What ensued was a 6-year legal battle that would leave her financially and emotionally depleted.
At what point did you suspect that your children were being alienated from you?
It probably wasn't for at least a year or so that I realised that these behaviours, these attitudes, the need to take control, he'd started making allegations against me that I'd hurt our children.
Alison's relationship with her children quickly broke down, so she went to the courts.
In a public judgment on your case, the judge said, and I'm paraphrasing partly here, "I find that the father's attitude towards the mother, his refusal to let the boys be seen, his complete subjugation to their views, and their reaction and attitude to their mother, in which he is complicit, all caused the boys emotional harm. It is likely to be significant." When a judge says those things, how does the father retain custody?
The judge, by making that statement, it should have rung alarm bells in his head. There was something seriously remiss with my ex-husband's behaviour, his inability to promote a relationship with me for the boys. What he failed to recognise is the damage had been done irretrievably.
The judge went on to say that the children were displaying a violent and dangerous antipathy to the mother, to you. The father, far from helping them, has by his own views, what he has shown and told them, and what he had permitted them to say, fostered that feeling. It is shared by him.
Unfortunately, this is the toothless nature of the family courts. I have a shared residency order which gives me legal equal parental responsibility, but it's about enforcing that. And unfortunately, the only way to have enforced that is for the children to be either engaged in some sort of restorative practice and mechanism to ensure that they came back to stay with me, but they would needed support to do so because their views about me at that stage were so distorted.
The judge, whilst critical of the father, did note statements where the father said there was no evidence he had promoted a negative view of the children's mother. The judge also noted the father had provided a number of witnesses who attested the boys were happy in his care.
I felt like a leper. I used to walk into the playground and feel like a leper. What mother doesn't have her children? She must have been done something awful.
It's been 7 years since you last spoke to your children.
Yes, at my youngest son's final school play in primary school. And I haven't seen them. I haven't spoken to them since. I write every month.
How difficult is it to write to them and not hear back?
The internal emotional trauma to sit down every month with a blank piece of paper and try and think of things to write to my children, because sadly and heartbreakingly, I don't know them now. It's 7 years. I don't know them. I don't know what their interests are. I don't know who their friends are. I don't know what their ambitions, their goals, their dreams are. I don't know if my boys will find their way back to me.
How difficult is it for you to say as a mother, you don't know your own children now?
Beyond heartbreaking. Beyond heartbreaking. To this day, I kiss a photo of my boys on my computer screen goodnight every night. I love them with all my heart. I just want them to always be happy, be healthy, and have the best life ever. And I will always be there for them, whenever, however, because I truly, truly love them.
But what effect will this have on the child? Dr. Fiona Pienaar is Head of Clinical Services at the children's mental health charity Place to Be.
So if we don't catch the issue early on and support children when the parental alienation starts, then the concern is that that carries through into adolescence when they're starting to form closer relationships and more intimate relationships. And the concern really is around that if your primary caregivers have been distrustful and alienated each other, then that's the modelling they've had. It can be really difficult to have a sense of trust for somebody that you're forming a relationship with. So you can have your, we say, have your radar out all the time, constantly looking for any changes in behaviours and really unable to get close to somebody else. And on into young adulthood, it can have a generational impact, because if that's been your modelling of how you form an intimate relationship, then the chances are that you might have challenges with an intimate relationship yourself, and that may then be modelled down to your children.
CAFCAS is the government organisation that represents children in the family court. Chris was forced to have dealings with them for over a decade. 6 months after his son was born, he returned home to find his partner and child gone.
It's a humiliating process. It's not meant to be, but the Kafka's process is actually a weapon for any vindictive parent with care for them to wield. How would you interpret it when the mother of your son turns to you and says, "Why do you want overnight contact with a small boy?" The insinuation is obvious. She said to me, "If you are awarded overnight contact, I will take him a long way away." So I left it. We went on for about until he was 5 years old, but the contact was continually frustrated. And I think it was in August when I got to see my son for 1 hour supervised, during which time he'd enjoyed playing a computer game with me in front of a Kafka's officer. But 5 minutes before the end, he turned to me and said, "Daddy, I hate you."
So that for you was confirmation that
It was
you
confirmation.
are now being alienated
There you go. There you
by
go.
your child.
Yes. But what did Kafka's do about it? Nothing. And I took a year out.
Where you didn't see your son.
I didn't see my son at all. I wrote to him. That's where your letters come in. I wrote him 80-odd letters, just one way.
Did he reply?
No.
When his son was 9, Chris reapplied for visitation rights.
Perhaps selfishly, I thought to myself, you know what, when he turns 21, 31, wherever age he is, when he comes knocking on my door saying, "Dad, why didn't you do this?" I can give him the papers and say, "Look, I did everything I possibly could."
By the time Chris's son was 12, the pair had been reunited and were living together under one roof.
When you look back at that 11-year battle to have access and contact with your child, what is your residing thought?
Sadness that so much has been lost, that he could have had so much more in his life. We could have all had so much more.
For parents experiencing separation or divorce, there are clear indicators that a child may be being alienated. Karen Woodall from the Family Separation Clinic is one of the country's leading experts.
When I hear people say to me, "I don't know what's wrong with him, he comes to my house, doesn't say a word for 2 hours. And then all of a sudden it's like he snaps out of it. Something happens and he's absolutely fine. When I hear that, I ask them to tell me about the 2 hours prior to the child going back to the other parent. And what I'm hearing is, oh, he becomes really grumpy, he becomes very withdrawn, he's very unhappy, sometimes he's crying, he doesn't want to go back to the other parent. What I'm hearing when I'm hearing that are the behaviours of children in transition, children who are vulnerable to psychological change.
Around the world, there is growing recognition of parental alienation. In the US, the courts can intervene at the start of a separation, ordering the parents attend mediation in high conflict cases. In Mexico, alienating a parent carries a 15-year jail term, while in Italy, alienation carries a fine. In October, a mother was fined €30,000 for alienating the father. In the UK, it's a different story. We have no legislation at all for parental alienation, but judges are starting to recognise it, and it's led to some children being removed from the alienating parent. The family courts, though, are not given any official guidance on alienation from the Ministry of Justice, but CAFCAS, the organisation that represent children, do provide guidance to their caseworkers. Parents are increasingly having to navigate the complex family court system alone. Sandra Davis is the head of family law at Mishkondareya.
The family court system is currently creaking with the withdrawal of legal aid and litigants acting in person. So whilst it's obviously incumbent on judges to try and move these cases through as quickly as possible and to arrive at consistent judging, resources are an issue. So I think it would be of real assistance to have mandatory mediation, mandatory therapeutic involvement at an early stage of the process, so that actually positions don't become too ingrained and the children do have a chance of maintaining a relationship before it sours completely.
It's the impact on the child that can be the most damaging. 14-year-old Emma was 7 when her parents divorced. Over the next 2 years, she was severely alienated from her mother by her father.
My brother went away from home to my dad's because my dad was saying he could give them everything he wanted and he wouldn't get in trouble for anything. And when he went away, me, my brother and my sister, we'd never been separated, so it was if my brother's going, I want to go, because we were siblings and siblings stick together. So I went and my sister followed.
For a time, the kids had contact with their mum, but that was soon stopped.
He'd ring up and say, oh, the kids are busy, we're going to do something, they can't see their mum today. And my mum would be already halfway there and she'd get the phone call to say that we're busy and that we can't see her.
Did you know that at the time?
No. At the time, all we knew was that my mum had let us down and that she'd been out drinking on the night before and that she had a hangover, so she couldn't be bothered to come. And it was just what we were lied to.
When your dad would say things to you like, oh, your mum's got a hangover, she's not coming today, what did you think?
I thought that my mum was never like that my mum would never drink loads, she's not that type of person, but if that's what my dad's saying, I believe him, that she's a liar, that everything that's happened is her fault, that she doesn't love us, that she's being a bully towards him and us, and that's why we've behaved the way we have.
One day in 2013, Emma got an unexpected message from her mum.
She's saying that she loves me, that she's been made out to be this person when she's not. She sent me this picture of me, my brother and my sister when we were little. It just made me think, why would my mum send me this if she didn't?
You didn't know at the time that you were being alienated?
No. With me only being 9 and until the age of 12, I didn't know. I was not aware. I was threatened with all sorts by my father. I turned around and I told him I want to see my mum, and he said no. If you carry on the way you're behaving, you'll be put into a foster home, care home, because we won't be able to look after you anymore.
Over the next few months, Emma ran away from her father's home twice and headed for her relatives. Eventually, she was reunited with her mum for good.
And as soon as I went in, the police was phoned to report that I'm not missing. And then I was put on the phone to my mum, and that's when I first heard my mum speak to me after 3 years. How can this man be a father? How can he look after a young child if he's done this? It was a terrible experience. And I tell other children to follow what your mind says, not what you're made to believe.